The Toronto Maple Leafs are interesting to me because I feel like sometimes they get misjudged a little just because there's so much coverage on them,
Yeah.
like compared to any other NHL team, that some of their issues might be a little bit overblown or some of their strengths are a little bit exaggerated. But really, where this team thrives is their high end forward talent, where you've got, I think, the best 1-2 punch at center outside of Edmonton with Austin Matthews and John Tavares. You've got Mitch Marner coming off that wing is just a really one of my favorite wingers to watch in the NHL, as well as William Nylander, who has been bounced back pretty strongly this year. You know, maybe not the greatest season last year, but definitely playing like an elite winger this year. What do you guys think of the Leafs? Let's start with Marshall this time.
They are very hard to judge.
Right?
But like you said, their forward core is right up there with the Avalanche and the Lightning as far as, just absolute, like, all-time, like, talents. Maybe not all-time, but, I mean, with some of them, maybe, like Matthews and Tavares and Marner, like, dude, you just have talent oozing on the forward side. But then where it gets a little bit interesting to me is defense, because their defense can put the puck in the net as well and help drive play like with the best of them. But then in terms of defensive defensemen, it's pretty thin. It's pretty thin. And then going out and picking up Tyson Perry didn't necessarily help that in the offseason. An interesting thing to me though is if Anderson can stay healthy and like kind of get back to the goalie that we've seen Anderson be before, and kind of get on a hot streak a little bit, and just like they just outscore teams and have some help from Anderson on the back end, this could be like a pretty dangerous team.
Yeah, this is a super dangerous team for sure. I just really, really do not like the way that Dubas has constructed this team for the future. Right now, this is a Stanley Cup contender. Their depth is crazy. I mean, even Hyman on the third, fourth line with Kerfoot, those are pretty solid players.
Yeah.
Yeah, their defense is where it gets scary. Us being Colorado fans, we obviously loved Tyson Barrie when he was here, but we could see those defensive shortcomings.
Yes.
Especially, in closing minutes in the game, taking chances, pinching when he shouldn't. Things like that. It's things that an offensive defenseman want to do, which is his game, which is totally fine. But, yeah, they just do not have the defensive play. Like, Jake Muzzin is absolute ass. Like, I don't know what he's been doing. They got him to fill a role on the back end, and he has not done it moving over from L.A.
Another guy that has
a very interesting team.
Without Drew Doughty.
Yeah. Another guy, Cody Ceci, has not been the same either. So
that was just such a bad move, in my opinion.
Yeah,
as well.
A couple guys that they brought in just really hoping to fill that, defensive game, and just haven't really been able to do it yet. They're relying on two of like the more like high octane defensemen or like offensive defensemen in the league to play more of a defensive game, and that's not necessarily worked out so far. One of those guys that I was talking about, Morgan Riley, didn't really have the best of years in comparison to his previous seasons. Last season, he started out like leading the NHL in points for a significant amount of time, and this season, not a terrible season, but only 27 points. You'd kind of like to see him put up some more points, especially, with the forwards that he has to pass the puck to. But that's my only gripe with this team is just the defensive side of the puck, really. I mean, there's no question that their forwards are like.
And also, to me, this team has tremendous, Stanley Cup bust potential. Like, they could either go all the way or totally shit the bed. This is a team.
They could lose to Columbus.
Yes. On 100%, they could lose to Columbus. This is a team earlier in the season going on like a 10-game losing streak. I remember because I followed TSN, and they were losing their shit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a team, obviously, they are just stacked down the middle. Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Kapanen, they are just stacked. Spezza, Tavares, holy shit.
Even Andreas Johnson, dude.
Yeah, even Andreas Janssen.
Yeah.
This is a team for some reason that has struggled to score at times though, and it's just sometimes it's hard to imagine that being the case with the Leafs.
That's the part that's just baffling to me is how a team.
They're an underperforming team as well. This is a team that, especially at parts of the year, they were hot. When they were on, they were one of the best teams in hockey. But when they weren't on, they were one of the worst teams in hockey, and it was seriously in doubt whether this team would make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's embarrassing to say that.
There was still doubt, dude.
Yeah, I guess there still is.
well, I mean, before the season got suspended, there was a great deal of doubt that they would actually sneak into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Luckily for Leafs fans here, they're getting a second shot here, and dude, with this roster. I mean, and kind of just resetting from the last half of the season, they could seriously turn it around and be something special here in the playoffs. But that's a big if, and this break is only going to benefit them or just exacerbate the problems that was already happening.
Right. They seem to have chemistry issues already, and not playing for a long amount of time is not going to help that. And this is just not a team. I know we don't touch on this much because this is our predictions, but this is a team, I just have to say it, this is a team that is going to get blown up in the future because their defense next year is going to be abysmal. Their forwards, they probably can't pay for the longest time.
Yeah.
They're going to have a abysmal bottom six. Is going to be really bad. And I'm not sure if the fans are ready for that kind of failure again.
And I mean, you're talking about... You mentioned the pay. Some of the contracts on this team, even for the best players, the one I want to talk about is Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner is making $10.8 million on a 6-year deal. Mikko Rantanen hit free agency the same year. Their production is very similar. Mikko Rantanen has actually scored more goals, and Mikko Rantanen is making $9.25. So you're paying Mitch Marner $1.5 million more than Mikko Rantanen. I don't care. You cannot make the case that Marner's the better winger, but it's close. It's definitely close, and he is definitely not $1.5 million better. It's just they have not negotiated their contracts very well. Part of that is that they're in Canada, so they have to pay their players a little more because of taxes and all that. But
I just think
it's going to be real hard to keep
a really bad GM, in my opinion. He's constructed this team that is not sustainable.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And he needs to win this year if he wants any dignity left.
Dude.
Yeah, and I mean, say what you want. He's a bad GM if they lose. If they win, then he's a good GM because he won a Stanley Cup, But it's looking shaky, They've got some holes. And Zach, you've said it on past pods. It's a common expression, that defense wins championships. Mm-hmm. And this team defense is their weak point. Even their defenders are forwards, basically, to an extent. Mm-hmm. So, really, their saving grace in that regard is Freddie Anderson. I love Freddie Anderson a lot. I think that he's going to have to step up big time, though, if they're going to make a deep run. He's got to make up for the fact that they don't have a ton on defense.
Right, and I know if people watched it, if Leafs fans watched this and commented, they would tell me that the contract coming up for the TV deal is going to boost the salary cap, and some of these deals are going to look good in the future, which we've already seen with William Nylander. His deal kind of looks decent now.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though it looked like a severe overpayment at the time. So
but
I know that's what they're banking
on.
Yeah, that's the thing, dude. We don't know how this whole COVID shit's gonna impact the salary cap moving forward. Right. Yes, there are some factors down the line with Seattle coming in and new TV deals that could help boost some of the salary cap, but in the immediate future, it does not look like the salary cap is going to take any sort of
could just as easily stay flat for 3 years. So there's a lot going on here. One player we did talk about a little bit, but I want to talk about a little bit more is Kasperi Kapanen.
Yeah.
This is a guy that, I would love to have him on the Avs, and I think he fits in well on the Leafs as well.
Yeah.
The speed is just, it pops off the screen. He's a guy that can finish as well, put up a few goals, not exactly a star, but a very, very valuable depth piece.
Yeah, he's a guy that I kind of wish, that Tyson Jones could kind of emulate to a sense,
Yeah.
and be on that third line and just produce.
One thing about these
Absolutely.
forwards, just like looking through this, dude, they are still so young though. Like
Mhm.
Matthews is only
Definitely.
21, Marner's 22, Nylander's 23, Kapanen's 23. Dude, like Ilya
Yeah, they're
Makhayev's
young.
24. They do
Which
have
means
like
And
these
even
guys are gonna get
Tavares isn't
paid.
an old
No,
man.
he's
You know, he's
28,
in his
so.
later 20s, but
Dude, no, still. And like he's locked in there for a while now, but yeah, there's going to be
Yeah.
some interesting negotiations that have to be going on.
someone's gonna have to take a team-friendly deal, or because no one has yet. And it's
And nobody on the
It
Leafs
doesn't look
nobody on the
great.
Leafs have set that precedent. We saw Marner hold out for as long as he did, and he ended up getting
Yeah.
kind of what he wanted.
Nylander held out even longer.
Yeah,
Nylander-
Nylander didn't play half the season.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, this is definitely, they had some issues about what might be going on in the locker room a little bit early in the season.
Right.
And then there's guys that have taken a step back. Alex Kerfoot, a guy I loved in Colorado,
Mhm.
and it just has not translated in Toronto.
Well, the thing is, I
Um,
think he kind of gets buried a little bit there.
He does, that's fair. But still, even he's their 3C, and he was playing on the third line quite a bit in Colorado, maybe getting a little bit of second line time, but he's a grindy kind of guy. You love the work ethic, you love the dude, but he's had a down year, and there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to like an absolutely like catastrophic like
Yeah.
extent here.
He's still a very rosterable player, a good bottom six guy, but
Right.
I think that Toronto was hoping for a little bit more when they got him in that Barry Kadri trade.
Yeah,
I
they
suppose
definitely
so.
were. Coming off a 42-point season, I'm sure they were looking for a little bit of an improvement on that.
I mean, but in
having
a
this
shortened
coming
season,
out with 28.
in a shortened
Right, he
season
only-
here,
It
it's
looks
not
like he only played 10 less games than
yeah.
last season.
I mean, I guess it is a bit of a down year, but not like an absolute like out of the league down year. Like
Right.
Yeah, this guy's not falling out of the league by any means. But a guy of his age coming off the season that he did, you were hoping that he had a shot to maybe even elevate himself further to become really one of the best 3Cs in the league, or otherwise a second line kind of wing, and that's not what he did. He didn't crater, but he definitely didn't take a step forward.
yeah, no, I agree with that. But then yeah, there's not really anything else I could say about Kerfoot. We already touched on it, but I did like the bounce back year that Nylander had. It's looking like that deal's going to turn out to be all right for Leafs. And he's a really exciting player to watch. I mean, he had 31 goals this year. That's pretty freaking impressive in 68 games played. So
Yeah. All right. So I want to get into our verdicts here then. Let's start with you, Zach. What do you think?
This is one of the hardest ones I've had to do.
I agree.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go just based off the star power they have. Actually, no. From the defense that they currently have rostered, I'm going to have to say pretender.
All right. I mean, that's fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
They're missing some. They've got some holes. What do you think, Marshall?
I'm going to say contender here. But it's a very thin line there. I'm
Yeah.
very curious to see how this team looks with this huge break, whether or not it benefits them or just, like I said, exacerbates the problems that we already saw them having. But just with this offensive firepower and the depth on their offense, dude, like, and I feel like their defense is not too much different than like Edmonton's defensive structure, although like Edmonton does have a little bit more of like defensive minded guys. Yeah, they're just a contender, but
Yeah.
a very, very like
Very
interesting.
close, right on that
contender for
bubble.
me.
Yeah, and I'm on the same page. I'm calling them a contender. They're towing that line real hard. If they could put it all together, throw all the talent together, get it really rolling like they are at their best, then this team really could make a cup run. They could be one of the 3 or 4 best teams in the league. They've got all the talent in the world. It's just what we've actually seen, and what we've seen is a playoff bubble team, and one that really can't compete with the Bruins in the East or the Lightning in the East, and they're going to need to make that step. They're going to need to prove something. So they're a contender.
One thing,
but they could just as easily lose in the first round.
One thing that player that we did not touch on is Rasmus Sandin, only 19 years old.
Yeah.
If he could figure out how to step his game up just a little bit in this return to play format, he could be a pretty valuable aspect for them.
Yeah, definitely. You bring in a young guy, shore up one of their biggest weaknesses, and I think that would definitely help them a lot.
Austin Matthews. Austin Matthews. Hit him with the floor like Austin Matthews.